Keanu Reeves, one of the most admired actors worldwide, is recognized not only for his talent but also for his humility and generosity. He has always held the belief that true success only carries meaning when it is shared. However, beyond the spotlight, very few are aware that he invested a portion of his wealth into constructing a hospital, a place designed to treat every individual with dignity, regardless of their financial situation. One day, after receiving concerning reports and feeling an undeniable urge, he makes a decision to visit his own hospital. But there's a twist. He chooses to go in disguise, hiding his true identity. Dressed as an ordinary patient, Keanu steps through the hospital's front doors, expecting to witness professionalism and compassion. However, what he actually encounters shakes him to his core. The emergency ward is under the control of an arrogant doctor, one who wields his power carelessly, belittling those in need, humiliating the most vulnerable, and deciding who is worthy of receiving medical attention. But what this doctor is unaware of is that among the very people he is mistreating is the true owner of the hospital himself. Keanu silently observes, suppressing his growing frustration. But for how long can he remain quiet? How will this unfold? Stay with us until the end to find out. Oh, and before we continue, tell us, where are you watching this from? We love reading your comments, and always check them out. Keanu Reeves sat in his office, gazing out through the vast glass window. Below, the city's lights twinkled, cars raced by, and countless lives intersected, yet remained oblivious to one another. He had achieved much: fame, fortune, and respect, but he had never forgotten the feeling of being treated as if he were invisible. That was precisely why he had funded the creation of this hospital, not merely as an act of charity, but as a model institution, a place where everyone, no matter their financial standing, would be treated with dignity. Yet, something was terribly wrong. Reports painted a picture of smooth operations, but Keanu had begun receiving anonymous complaints, something he could not accept. There was only one way to uncover the truth. He had to see it for himself. That evening, Keanu climbed onto his old black motorcycle, threw on a faded jacket and worn-out jeans, and set off toward the hospital. This time, just another patient. When he walked through the glass entrance, not a single person recognized him. The global action star, adored by millions, had now become just another face in the crowd. Approaching the reception desk, he found a tired-looking receptionist typing away at her computer, barely acknowledging his presence. Keanu waited patiently. "Good evening. I'd like to schedule a consultation." Only then did the receptionist glance up. She eyed his simple clothing with mild irritation before asking, "Name?" "Keanu." She raised an eyebrow and began typing. "Insurance. I'd rather pay in cash." With an exaggerated sigh, she rolled her eyes and handed him a small slip of paper. "Take a seat and wait your turn. It's gonna be a while." Keanu accepted the paper without protest and moved to the waiting area, settling between an elderly man with visible discomfort and a mother cradling her feverish child. As he sat, he observed the room carefully. A desperate young mother clutched her sick baby, whose tiny chest rose and fell rapidly with fever. She looked exhausted, on the verge of tears. Mustering courage, she approached the receptionist. "Please. My baby is very sick. He needs to see a doctor now." The receptionist didn't even bother looking up. "Ma'am, I already told you. You need to wait your turn." "But he's getting worse." The receptionist let out an irritated sigh. "If you're so worried, maybe take him to a public hospital. We follow rules here." Keanu's eyes narrowed. Then, beside him, he noticed the elderly man clutching his chest, struggling to breathe. A nurse passed by, but barely spared him a glance. "Sir," she said dismissively, "I can't stop everything for every little pain. Just wait your turn." The old man groaned, wincing in pain. Keanu's fists clenched. No one should be treated like this. Then he saw something else. A man in an expensive suit strode past the reception. He needed no number. He didn't have to wait. The staff greeted him warmly and immediately ushered him inside. Dr. Javier is expecting you, sir. You can go right in. Keanu watched, jaw tightening. The wealthy were treated like royalty, while those in real need were ignored. Taking a slow breath, he walked back to the receptionist. "Excuse me," he said. She barely glanced up. "What now?" He nodded toward the mother and the elderly man. "They clearly need urgent care. Are you sure nothing can be done?" The receptionist frowned, visibly annoyed. "Like I said, everyone waits their turn. Rules are rules." Keanu stayed silent for a moment, analyzing the situation. Rules can be bent when lives are at stake.
She scoffed.
"And what makes you think you know more than the doctors?" Keanu gave a small, knowing smirk, shook his head, and returned to his seat. He had seen enough. This hospital was not what he had envisioned. Something was deeply wrong, and he was going to fix it. What Keanu didn't realize yet was that within moments, one of the most arrogant doctors in the building would do something so unforgivable that he could no longer just sit back and watch.
It would be time to act.
But first, he needed to see exactly how deep this corruption ran. Keanu leaned in slightly, listening carefully. Another voice spoke, lower but filled with anger. "He picks and chooses who gets treated. If you're rich or important, you go right in. If you're poor, you might as well not exist." Keanu clenched his jaw. Every word confirmed what he had already seen. But then, something even more alarming was said. "I heard rumors that he's been overcharging patients too, running unnecessary tests just to bill them more." Keanu had heard enough. He stepped back from the door and walked toward the exit, his mind made up. He would expose Dr. Javier and everyone who had allowed this corruption to flourish. The next morning, the hospital staff arrived as usual, unaware that today would be different. Keanu Reeves was no longer a silent observer. He was about to reveal his true identity and bring justice to